My husband despised my humble origins and entrusted our son's upbringing to the daughter of his mentor. During the Mid-Autumn Lantern Festival, Mei Qingwan abandoned 6-year-old Hunger in the bustling marketplace, claiming it was to build his courage. When I found the child, I was drenched in sweat, as if I had died and come back to life. Returning home, I saw Meng Xinyan enjoying the moonlight in the courtyard with Mei Qingwan and her son. Laughter and cheer filled the air, a picture of a happy family of 3. That night, after lulling Hunger to sleep, I demanded a divorce. Meng Xinyan's face turned icy. "Do you know what you're saying?" Only when my numb soul returned did his voice reach me, cold as ice, each word piercing through thick curtains. "Such a trivial matter, why make such a fuss? It was merely to temper Hunger's courage. Servants were present throughout, could he truly have been lost? However much it pains you, you must endure it. Jade uncut remains unpolished." Hunger's timid nature makes Qingwan's methods seem harsh, yet it is for his own good. His voice was not loud, his gaze calm and profound, carrying the weight of long-held authority. After 6 years back in the capital, Meng Xinyan's official career had flourished, his temperament growing increasingly sharp, autocratic, and unfeeling. I lifted my gaze to meet his, a sharp pang of pain piercing my heart once more. On the Mid-Autumn Festival, when families reunite, I nearly lost my own child. To me, Hunger is like a precious jewel, my very life. How could Meng Xinyan not know this? He understood perfectly well that Mei Qingwan was deliberately tormenting Hunger. Yet he turned a blind eye. Yesterday, Meng Xinyan invited several friends to the mansion to admire the chrysanthemums. As the wine flowed freely and spirits rose, someone jokingly suggested testing Hunger's studies. Hung stammered through a poem of nearly 100 characters. Mei Qingwan's son, Jinlin, however, recited it flawlessly in one breath. Hang's little face turned deathly pale, his terror deepening. Before all those present, Meng Xinyan was utterly humiliated. Thus, today's events were his punishment. I recalled finding Hunger tonight, cowering in the corner, trembling and too terrified to speak. My gaze fixed firmly on his face, for the first time without yielding. "If anything were to happen to Hunger tonight, what would you do?" The candle crackled and burst. Meng Xinyan paused, then laughed bitterly. "Qingwan always acts with discretion. Besides, I'm here, nothing will happen." How laughable. He ordered servants to follow from a distance, yet returned to the mansion with Mei Qingwan and her son. If anything truly happened, by the time the servants reported back, it would be too late. Meng Xinyan had underestimated the strength of a mother's resolve. Had anything truly gone wrong tonight, I likely would have taken up a knife and fought him to the death. Perhaps noticing my deathly pallor, Meng Xinyan finally softened his tone. I was a mischievous child who disliked studying, and my father was equally strict. A parent's love for their child means planning for their distant future. As Hunger's biological father, I act only for his sake. Do not feel wronged. Meng Xinyan understood this better than anyone. As an orphaned girl, I had nowhere to go if I left the Meng residence. Hunger, as the eldest legitimate grandson of the Meng family, could never remain by my side. No matter what, this vulnerability would always make me yield. But this time, he was wrong. Life had been too smooth, causing him to forget. 6 years ago, when the Meng family's old case was reopened, his future hung in the balance. Fearing I and the child in my womb would be implicated, Meng Xinyan personally wrote a letter of divorce. He signed it and sealed it with his fingerprint. That letter of divorce still lies at the bottom of my dowry chest. Meng Xinyan went to the bathhouse to wash. I lowered my gaze to the tiny figure cradled in my arms. My heart still pounded violently within my chest. The lingering fear hadn't fully receded. Hunger's breathing gradually evened out, tiny droplets of tears still clinging to his lashes. My arms had long since grown numb and aching, yet I couldn't bear to set him down. It was laughable, really. In 6 years as mother and son, moments of such closeness had been few and far between. When I gave birth to Hunger, I suffered a difficult delivery and severe hemorrhage, leaving my body depleted after childbirth. No sooner had Hunger turned 1 than my mother-in-law, citing my inadequate care, forcibly took him to raise under her own wing. I missed my child, weeping day and night. My repeated protests yielded nothing. Meng Xinyan comforted me. "Ah Zhen, I know your heart aches, but Hunger's upbringing is paramount. Could you bear to jeopardize his future? I understood the weight of his words. Years ago, the Meng family was implicated in a major corruption scandal, leading to their exile. It was I, a lonely country girl, who supported and cared for them, enabling the Mengs to endure until their case was overturned. A year after our marriage, the Mengs were reinstated, their wrongful conviction cleared. My union with Meng Xinyan became a celebrated tale throughout the capital. Sharing hardship and prosperity, ours was a rare marriage of mutual devotion and gratitude. Yet when it came to Hunger, the narrative shifted entirely. As the legitimate son and eldest grandson of a distinguished family, how could he be raised by a mother of humble origins? For Hunger's future, I had no choice but to let go with a heavy heart. At first, Meng Xinyan clearly cherished both me and Hunger. Sympathetic to my longing for my child, whenever his mother left for temple prayers, he would bring Hunger to me. The little one would run toward me with a smile, and I'd rush to catch him in my arms. The moment his warm, soft body collided with mine, all my grievances would vanish like smoke. When Hunger turned 3 and began his studies, Meng Xinyan secretly arranged for me to set up a table outside the schoolhouse so I could watch him learn. The old tutor, after eating the snacks I brought him at noon, would always take a nap. During those rare moments of leisure, Hunger and I would find all sorts of fun ways to pass the time. Flying kites, playing shuttlecock, hide-and-seek. Meng Xinyan would always watch us play with a smile, his gaze filled with tender affection. On days off, he'd hoist Hunger onto his shoulders and take my hand to stroll through the market. Perhaps it was because I worried day and night about Meng Xinyan's return to the capital during the retrial of the Meng family case. Hunger was startled in my womb. He was naturally reserved and didn't like to talk much. When my mother-in-law expressed displeasure, Meng Xinyan would hold Hunger close, beaming with pride. He insisted Hunger was a wise child who appeared simple, in no way inferior to other children. So when did things begin to change? It was roughly a year ago, when Mei Qingwan arrived in the capital with Jinglin. She was the daughter of Meng Xinyan's mentor. After the Mei family fell on hard times and were exiled, she entrusted herself to the wrong man and divorced her husband. My mother-in-law, pitying her plight, took her into the household. Yet Mei Qingwan insisted she wouldn't accept charity without merit, volunteering to become Hunger's tutor and drawing a monthly stipend from the household funds. Renowned for her learning, she devoted herself wholeheartedly to teaching Hunger. My mother-in-law and Meng Xinyan were naturally pleased. But I saw less and less of Hunger. The maids who had attended Hunger were dismissed one by the mother-in-law, though I never learned why. Only unfamiliar faces remained. I could no longer enter the study, let alone inquire about Hunger. I sought out Mei Qingwan, but she replied that studying required tranquility, a rule approved by the master, leaving me speechless. Mei Qingwan insisted diligence refines skills while idleness ruins them. The little boat I carved for Hunger was returned before it ever reached him. When Hunger cried and demanded to see me, Mei Qingwan told the matriarch, "The young master is growing older. Exposed too long to his mother's soft, indulgent ways, he may never learn independence." Because of this, my mother-in-law even revoked my monthly visits with Hunger on the 1st and 15th days of the lunar month, insisting the child focus solely on his studies. Hunger's academic progress accelerated, yet he resembled a seedling deprived of water, growing increasingly sullen and listless. The light in the eyes of a 6-year-old child gradually dimmed. Watching this unfold, my heart burned with anxiety, yet Meng Xinyan remained unconcerned. Reading cultivates wisdom and naturally nurtures composure. Linner, barely 2 years older, already shows discipline in his words and deeds. Hunger, by contrast, is utterly unteachable. With Jinglin as a benchmark, Meng Xinyan grew increasingly convinced that Hunger was timid and unpromising, his disappointment deepening. He specifically admonished me, "Only a strict teacher can produce a capable student. Do not let your maternal instincts delay Hunger's future prospects." For this reason, I swallowed all my heartache and endured again and again. It wasn't until today that I saw Mei Qingwan's true colors. She was deliberately raising Hunger to be useless. Early the next morning, Mei Qingwan came to apologize. "Last night, I was thoughtless and rushed, frightening Hunger. It was my fault." Her words were earnest, each sentence an admission of error. Her tear-filled eyes were pitifully moving. I remained absorbed in my tasks, paying her no mind. Mei Qingwan paused in surprise, then nudged Xinglin. The boy immediately dropped to his knees, pleading for his mother's forgiveness. This scene fell into the eyes of Meng Xinyan, who had just arrived. He instantly shielded Mei Qingwan and her son behind him, his tone icy. Qingwan's intentions were pure. Why must you persist in this, disrupting our household's peace? A familiar pang of sorrow filled my nostrils. Suppressing the surging emotions, I met his gaze directly and said coldly, I must seek justice for Hunger. Mei Qingwan tugged at Meng Xinyan's sleeve, her voice softening, Madam is right. This grievance must be addressed. I shall go now to request my resignation from the old madam and depart today. Meng Xinyan's brows furrowed tightly. Just as he was about to speak, his mother-in-law's loud voice cut through the air, Nonsense. Who dares drive Wanner away? She had gone to the temple yesterday to pray for blessings and only returned today. Who knows what the servants had told her, but she turned to me, her face dark with displeasure. In my view, Hunger's timid nature runs deep, it's ingrained. He takes after his mother. No matter how hard you try to teach him, Wanner, it's futile. Her words cut to the bone, nearly knocking me off my feet. Meng Xinyan steadied me, sighing, Mother, choose your words carefully. Asian only cares deeply for Hunger, she's simply overwhelmed by concern. Qingwan, offer Asian a cup of tea. Let's put this behind us. He had taken it upon himself to forgive Mei Qingwan for me. When that cup of tea was handed to me, I didn't hesitate. I raised my hand and flung it across the room. Meng Xinyan, standing beside me, was drenched as well. My mother-in-law gasped in shock, and Meng Xinyan's face instantly turned ashen. Mei Qingwan was right, for Hunger's sake, I must have my revenge. Everything else no longer matters. In a few days, once everything is settled, I will take Hunger and leave. Meng Xinyan seethed all day, returning to the courtyard only at sunset. He claimed Mei Qingwan insisted on leaving, already at the dock when mother-in-law rushed to persuade her back. If you still feel wronged, I admit my fault. You may strike or scold me as you will. His gaze lingered on my face for a moment, his voice growing colder. Qingwan is a widow with an orphan child. It's already hard enough for her to make her way in this world. Why must you keep making things difficult for her? I clenched the handkerchief in my fist, a bitter taste rising in my throat. This was the first time he'd ever bowed his head to me in apology, yet it was for another woman. As we spoke, Hunger slowly stirred awake. After several nightmares last night, she'd only just fallen asleep. Perhaps hearing our argument, she lifted her small face and whispered softly, Mother, I'm fine. Please don't blame Father. Those words shattered the strength I'd been forcing myself to maintain since last night. He cautiously glanced at Meng Xinyan, gathering his courage to offer a slightly embarrassed defense. Father, even though Hunger was very scared last night, Hunger really didn't cry, you know. Does that mean Hunger is a brave boy? Meng Xinyan's expression softened slightly as he nodded thoughtfully. Hung reached out from my embrace, grasped his sleeve, and tugged timidly. Father, could you please like Hung just a little bit more? Not as much as you like Brother Lin, but just a little bit more than before. Would that be okay? The child's tender voice echoed in the quiet room. My heart suddenly ached, unable to resist pitying his longing for his father's affection. Meng Xinyan crouched down before Hunger, his throat moving several times before he spoke softly. Father was wrong to make you sad, Hunger. I won't do it again. He looked up and caught sight of the scattered jewelry on my desk. Why are you gathering these? I quickly gathered them and placed them in my jewelry box. The elders say gold and silver calm the spirit. I'm using them to soothe Hunger's fright. Meng Xinyan didn't think much of it. After a moment's hesitation, he relented. Once Hunger recovers, let him study at the White Bird Academy. Bainyao Academy was renowned throughout the capital. Its headmaster, a great scholar of the age, practiced tailored instruction, emphasizing intellectual enlightenment. The academy was extremely selective, admitting only a handful of students each year. Even with Meng Xinyan's current official standing, securing a place would require considerable effort and connections. I lowered my gaze, watching the obedient Hunger in my arms, and finally agreed, very well. In the end, that spot did not go to Hunger. Meng Xinyan lost a precious ancient inkstone. His study was off limits to ordinary people. After Hunger was frightened last time, Meng Jinyan, feeling guilty, allowed him to read in the study. That ancient inkstone was found in Hunger's book bag. When I arrived, Hunger had been kneeling on the floor for who knew how long. His small body trembled with terror, his voice shaking as he cried, "Mother, please believe Hunger. I didn't steal anything." Hearing this, tears welled up in my eyes. Mei Qingwan sighed deeply, her heart aching. In our daily lessons, I taught them equally. Just the other day, Linner returned lost money, yet today Hunger hides an inkstone in Linner's bag, attempting to frame him. I scooped Hunger into my arms, clenching my jaw so hard my teeth nearly shattered. The truth hasn't been uncovered yet, how can you jump to conclusions? Meng Jinyan slammed his palm on the table, his eyes bulging with fury. Linner saw it with his own eyes. The thief was caught red-handed. How much longer do you intend to spoil him? Mei Qingwan lowered her gaze, hiding the sharp glint in her eyes, her tone growing more earnest. Please calm your anger, father. Hunger is pure-hearted. He was temporarily swayed by others, seeking revenge for the Lantern Festival incident. His actions are understandable. Smack! I lunged forward, gathering every ounce of strength to slap Mei Qingwan across the face. All this time, you've been manipulating Hunger. Did you truly believe I was unaware? After speaking, I turned my gaze to Meng Jinyan. Can't you see who's sowing discord here? You'd rather believe that mother and son than hear Hunger's defense? Meng Jinyan stared at me in disbelief, veins bulging on his forehead as his breathing grew ragged. Stubborn fool. That spot at Bainyao Academy is going to Linner. With Hunger's character, sending him there would bring utter disgrace upon me. He drew a deep breath, issuing his final ultimatum. Since you're so determined to shield this good-for-nothing, pack his things tomorrow and take him to the country estate outside the city to reflect. You and your son may return only when you've truly repented. Facing Meng Jinyan's look of disgust, my heart remained utterly still. As the maids helped her away, Mei Qingwan hung her head, eyes blurred with tears, a faint, almost imperceptible curve playing at the corners of her mouth. I had no time to savor her smugness, hurrying Hunger back to our quarters. By the time mother-in-law arrived upon hearing the news, Hunger and I had already packed our belongings and boarded the carriage waiting at the back gate. Meng Jinyan slowly began to sense something was amiss. That day, carried away by emotion, I'd spoken without restraint. Watching the carriage gradually recede, an inexplicable unease stirred within me. Ajin possessed a quiet, gentle nature, rarely displaying such fierce resolve. Could it be I had truly wronged her and her son? I intended to investigate, but official duties consumed me, leaving no spare time. By the time the affairs were settled, half a month had passed. Meng Jinyan personally went to the estate. No matter what, he would bring them back first. The estate couldn't compare to the mansion in terms of living conditions. Ultimately, he couldn't bear the thought of them enduring hardship. But upon arriving at the estate, the steward looked utterly bewildered. Master, the mistress and young master have never been here. Meng Jinyan doubted his own ears, confirming repeatedly only to discover Ajin and her son truly had never set foot in the estate. His breathing grew heavy, his mind in turmoil. He urgently dispatched men to search for them. Returning to the mansion in a daze, Mei Qingwan greeted him at the gate, holding Jinglin's hand, her face beaming with smiles. Meng Jinyan was irritable, his troubled mind casting a shadow over his face. Mei Qingwan sensed something was amiss. After inquiring, she learned the whole story and went to the old madam that very night to plead her case. It was all Lin's fault. He shouldn't have revealed the truth in public, driving a wedge between the master and mistress. But the mistress has such a fiery temper, how could she let a momentary impulse get the better of her? Before she could finish, the matriarch's eyes flashed crimson with rage. Before her son, she slammed her teacup down and thundered, "That foolish woman thinks taking Hunger away will give her leverage over me and you? She's delusional. Without the Meng family, she and her son are nothing. The Meng family has no place for such an ungrateful woman who uses her child to gain advantage. If you still recognize me as your mother, write the divorce papers immediately and cast Xinjin out." Divorce papers? Meng Jinyan's heart trembled, suddenly recalling old events. Then he remembered the jewelry on the table that day, and a vague suspicion began to form in his mind. When he finally pulled the divorce decree from the bottom of the chest, a cold sweat broke out on his back. The vermilion official seal burned painfully into his fingertips. He collapsed into his chair, nearly drained of strength. The rise and fall of the Meng family in years past had taught him the vital importance of flattery and smooth maneuvering in official circles. He yearned for his son to become a dragon, and his frustration at Henger's lack of ambition naturally led to harsher treatment. As for Qingwan, their youthful affection had merely been a helping hand. She, too, had poured her heart into supporting Henger. Asian didn't understand, so she resented him, blamed him. He always thought that time would eventually make her see. But he never imagined that Asian, who had always obeyed him in everything, would dare to divorce him behind his back and dare to take Henger and leave. It struck him like a thunderclap, shattering his heart and soul. An orphaned mother and child adrift in the world, he dared not dwell on the dangers they faced. He immediately dispatched additional men throughout the night to search for them. Under the flickering candlelight, he paced, rubbing his temples, waiting anxiously for news. Little did he know, this wait would last a decade. Today, he waited and waited at the Shin residence, yet still failed to see the young shipwright. Word had it this Shin youth, barely 16, possessed uncanny ingenuity in shipbuilding. With the Eastern Sea Fleet now feeble, pirates repeatedly raided the coast, leaving His Majesty sleepless in his concerns. The ship design this youth presented doubled the speed of old vessels and carried 30% more cannons. The emperor was deeply impressed, and the ships were expected to be built soon. Those with inside information had already sought opportunities to curry favor. Unfortunately, this was the third time he had been turned away. Just as he was preparing to head home, a familiar, graceful figure passed through the moon-shaped gate. Meng Xinyan rubbed his eyes, nearly stunned, murmuring, "Azhen?" I instinctively turned to look, meeting a pair of startled eyes. The gardener's shears veered half an inch off course, ruining a pot of orchids. 10 years had passed, and Meng Xinyan had grown thinner. Perhaps from constant worry, a faint frost of gray had crept into his temples. Before he Henger returned to the capital, I knew we would meet again someday. I just hadn't imagined it would come so soon. Asian? Meng Xinyan's voice was hoarse. Is it really you? I lowered my gaze, concealing the emotions churning within. For a moment, only endless silence filled the air. Shin. Meng Xinyan forced my name from between clenched teeth, his tone laced with pain and resentment. After a moment, he regained control and said in a deep voice, "Do you know I've searched for you and Henger for 10 years? In these 10 years, do you know how many?" Seeing there was no avoiding it, I lifted my gaze to meet his and interrupted calmly, "Minister Meng, we divorced long ago." Meng Xinyan showed a hint of surprise, but quickly suppressed it. I never consented to the divorce back then. You acted on your own, taking Henger and leaving. Back then, I hadn't consulted his wishes. Seeing my silence, Meng Xinyan wearily rubbed his temples and said with difficulty, "Sending you and my son to the estate for reflection was indeed my oversight. Over the years, I'm sure you've endured much hardship. I won't dwell on the past. It's enough that you and Henger have returned." His eyes lit up at the mention of Henger, and he pressed urgently, "Where is Henger? Let me see him." Henger was summoned by His Majesty for an audience a few days ago. He entered the palace to discuss important matters and has not returned for several days. As it involves military secrets, I couldn't elaborate, only replying that he was on duty. Meng Xinyan pondered for a moment, his gaze settling on the orchids I tended. Suddenly, it dawned on him. "So that's it," he murmured, nodding slightly with a hint of understanding. "I heard this young state engineer shares your surname. Could he be a relative?" Henger took my surname the day he entered the academy. Meng Xinyan had misinterpreted. Seeing my silence, he seemed to confirm his thoughts and sighed, "All these years, you've been holding a grudge against me, yet it's been Henger's future that's been wasted. This young national engineer is the same age as Henger, yet his accomplishments are already extraordinary. Had you endured the heartache back then, he could have received guidance from renowned masters and support from his family background. How could he have ended up in such a predicament today?" I detected regret in his words. It turned out he mistakenly believed Henger and I were living in poverty, dependent on others. Meng Xinyan lowered his voice slightly, making plans for Henger on his own. "Henger bears the Meng surname after all. Living under someone else's roof is no long-term solution. In 2 more years, when he reaches marriageable age, what then? He then proceeded to dictate our future. Within these 2 days, you shall resign from your current household, pack your belongings, and return to my estate with me. I shall secure a position for hunger. I felt a tinge of amusement, and a mischievous thought suddenly struck me. I blurted out, Hunger has achieved nothing thus far. Are you still willing to let him claim his ancestral lineage? Meng Jinyan froze, his lips parting, but no words came out. 10 years had passed, yet he showed not the slightest improvement. My smile slowly faded, and I spoke solemnly, Hunger's future is no longer your concern, Minister Meng. You may leave. Meng Jinyan accused me of being ungrateful and stormed off. That evening, when Hunger returned home, I brought up the day's events. Taking Hunger away back then was my decision alone. Now that he's grown, he can judge for himself. I'm giving him the choice. Hunger looked at me, his gaze clear and resolute. Though he is my biological father, it was Mother who raised me to adulthood. Hunger, usually mature beyond his years and steadfast, now unexpectedly showed a hint of childlike dependence. No matter what, I will always stand by Mother's side. Without Mother, there would be no Hunger of today. Memories flooded my mind, stinging my nose until tears nearly spilled. As we spoke, dusk deepened and a sudden downpour arrived. In the courtyard, a young sparrow stumbled in the storm. Its mother swiftly swooped down, spreading her drenched wings to shield it beneath her. Watching them, my thoughts drifted back a decade, to the day I left the estate. As the carriage rolled out of the city gates, a sudden downpour had also begun. The hired female escort asked me where I was headed. I clutched Hunger tightly in my arms, momentarily lost. Only when I saw the little boat he held tightly in his hand did I make up my mind. To Jiangnan, to see the big ships Hunger longed for. I rented a small courtyard house by the ferry crossing. Hunger would drag a little stool to the shore, sit there watching the passing ships, and stay put all day long. Ever since that false accusation, Hunger grew even more withdrawn. Only at times like this did he show glimpses of childlike liveliness. He'd fetch paper and brushes, quietly sketching the ship's forms. At first, they were simple, childish outlines, but gradually they filled with intricate mathematical symbols. He begged me to find books on shipbuilding, and each day he buried himself in crafting wooden models. Neighbors wondered why he didn't attend school, saying that fancy crafts couldn't compare to the proper imperial examinations, and urged me not to waste the child's potential. I smiled without reply. Had they seen the gloomy child at the Meng residence, they wouldn't have spoken so. Over time, my heart settled. Truthfully, that first year was agonizing. I couldn't tell if my decision was good or bad for Hunger. Had he stayed with the Mengs, he'd remain a pampered young master. Barring misfortune, he'd pass the exams, enter officialdom, and live a life of ease. With me, a commoner, he'd have to fight for everything himself. I had even considered taking him back. But Hunger, twisting the hem of his robe, asked me anxiously, "Does Mama love me only because I'm good at studying, just like Papa?" Those words pierced my heart like a tiny needle, striking its softest spot. I set down my needlework and stroked Hunger's head. "Hunger, you're mistaken. Mama loves you simply because of who you are, not because of what you do. You needn't be sensible or well-behaved to be worthy of love, nor must you meet Mama's expectations to be cherished. Love is not a choice, it is unconditional acceptance." When Hunger turned 8, he suddenly told me with great earnestness that he wanted to attend school. Half a year later, his schoolmaster declared Hunger possessed extraordinary talent in mathematics and recommended I seek out Master Liu of Songshan. I heard this Master Liu was a reclusive master craftsman, profound in the study of things, especially skilled in deduction, though eccentric and unwilling to receive outsiders. I brought Hunger to visit several times, only to be turned away each time. Later, I plucked up my courage, brought homemade treats, and bribed the mute servant attending Master Liu, finally gaining entry to the courtyard. Through the window, Master Liu caught sight of Hunger using twigs to draw mathematical diagrams in the sand. He was utterly astonished. From that day onward, he made an exception and took Hunger as his final disciple. The old man and the young boy forged a deep bond through their shared passion for mathematics. Early this year, Hunger's treatise, New Interpretations of Ships and Boats, was presented to the imperial court through Master Lu. After reviewing it, His Majesty summoned the boy personally. Upon witnessing the ship model demonstration, he bestowed upon him the honorary title of Young National Engineer right in the palace hall. A decade had passed in the blink of an eye. The child who once needed my protection had now grown into my pillar of strength. Meng Xinyan remained sullenly brooding. Even without seeing Hunger, he could imagine the boy's timid demeanor as an adult, stirring fresh waves of irritation within him. After his shift ended, a familiar colleague invited him out for drinks. Noticing his gloomy expression, they assumed he'd been rebuffed at the Shin residence and offered consolation. A young national craftsman personally named by His Majesty, summoned to the palace to discuss state affairs. Such a figure is rarely seen. Meng Xinyan snapped out of his reverie, forcing a smile and offering perfunctory replies. He recalled the unmistakable admiration in the Minister of Work's voice yesterday when mentioning this youth. His Majesty cherishes talent with great caution. Aside from a few veteran ministers, none have ever seen him. They know only his surname, Shin, not his given name. Envy, jealousy, and regret churned within him. If only Hunger were still by his side. Though he could never match the brilliance of this young state engineer, he could at least have been like Linner, taking the imperial examinations properly, securing a minor official post, and walking the right path. Overprotective mothers often ruin their sons. Hunger had ultimately been destroyed by a woman's hands. As they spoke, an elderly man in plain clothes paused beneath the corridor, gazing over with a smile. Meng Xinyan hurried forward and bowed deeply. For though Lu Shanren held no official rank, he was the emperor's former tutor, renowned far and wide. Word had spread that he'd come to the capital this time to arrange his final disciple's future. Meng Xinyan sighed inwardly, but offered flattery aloud. I've long admired your reputation, master. I hear your most gifted disciple is a prodigy without equal. Your discerning eye for talent commands my deepest respect. Lu stroked his beard, studying Meng with a meaningful gaze before replying, my old pupil is merely more stubborn than most, willing to pour relentless effort into what he loves. His childhood was fraught with hardship, he continued, shifting his tone. Had it not been for his mother's resilience, shielding him from life's storms and sacrificing everything, he would not stand where he does today. Meng Xinyan didn't dwell on it, taking it as a common sentiment. He agreed, a mother's love for her child is truly moving. Mrs. Shin must be an extraordinary woman herself to have raised such a brilliant young prodigy. His words were sincere, yet a pang of bitterness flashed through his mind. If only Ajin had possessed half of Mrs. Shin's discernment, things might not have ended as they did. Lu Shanren paused mid-stroke of his beard, barely suppressing the mockery in his eyes. He invited Meng Xinyan to attend his birthday banquet in 3 days, specifically emphasizing, my disciple and her son will also be present. Lu Shanren paused meaningfully. As it happens, my disciple and Minister Meng are fellow townsfolk, both hailing from Huainan. Meng Xinyan's delight deepened at this, feeling a new closeness to the young national scholar. He remained utterly oblivious to the deeper meaning behind Lu Shanren's words. On the day of Lu Shanren's 60th birthday banquet, the capital enjoyed a rare sunny day. Stepping down from his carriage, he happened upon Mei Qingwan. She was dressed in her finest attire, her beauty undimmed. Not long ago, Jinglin had achieved the top rank in the provincial exams, and he was now basking in glory. Seeing me, Mei Qingwan looked somewhat surprised. Sister Shin, what brings you here? Could it be you didn't know that even the young guests at today's banquet must have passed the preliminary exams? Today's banquet invites only distinguished guests and students of note. My presence here is indeed unusual. Her gaze swept lightly over my companion behind me, and the smile at her lips deepened, but where is Hunger? True enough. In such an academic testing environment, bringing him would only put him in an awkward position. I kept my eyes straight ahead, passing her to reach the mansion's entrance. The steward of the Lu residence had been waiting for some time. Spotting me, he hurriedly bowed, Madam Shin has finally arrived. My master specifically instructed that as an honored guest of the household, you should be escorted to the flower hall for conversation first. Mei Qingwan froze, the smile on her face stiffening. After finishing my conversation with Scholar Lu in the flower hall, I turned the corner of the corridor only to encounter Meng Xinyan. He likely assumed I'd come to assist with the banquet preparations, so he looked around cautiously. Seeing no one nearby, he stepped forward to block my path. Ajin, I know you still resent me. These past days, I've thought long and hard. Though Hunger's talents are ordinary, not matching Linner's brilliance, he remains my son, blood of the Meng family. Come back to the estate with me. Let Hunger acknowledge his ancestral ties. I'll see to his proper upbringing from now on. Even if he achieves little in his studies, he can live as a wealthy idler. After all, Linner will uphold the Meng family's prestige. I remained silent for a long while, finding it utterly absurd. These past days, I've also inquired about Meng Jinyan. I heard he took Xinlin as his adopted son and poured his heart into cultivating him. Not only did he personally seek out renowned tutors for him, but he also brought him to banquets with high-ranking ministers, teaching him the ins and outs of officialdom step by step. Clearly, he'd pinned all hopes of restoring the Meng family's prestige on Xinlin. I met his gaze directly and reminded him once more, Meng Jinyan, I refuse. Hunger refuses. There's no need to say more. A flicker of surprise crossed Meng Jinyan's eyes. He thought that by backing down, I would follow suit. Ajin, you've uttered such angry words twice now. I couldn't be bothered to waste more breath on him and turned to leave. Passing through several ceremonial gates, the courtyard hosting the banquet was already filled with laughter and chatter. Shin had left early that morning to fetch a birthday gift for his esteemed teacher. He should be arriving soon. Sure enough, from afar came the robust boasting of Master Lu, that I should gain a disciple like Shinhun in my twilight years is truly divine providence. His ingenuity in understanding principles and crafting instruments, his brilliance and insight, far surpass my own in my youth. The word Shinhun reached my ears, and my lips curved in an almost imperceptible smile. Just then, a clear, affectionate call rang out, Mother. All eyes followed the sound to see a youth in moon-white scholar's robes approaching with a smile. His posture was upright, his sparse brows and bright eyes radiant, clearly the prodigy Master Lu had just praised. The entire garden seemed to brighten with autumn hues. But when Meng Jinyan caught sight of the youth's face, he halted abruptly. Hunger? From the women's section, a noble lady who had known me in earlier years recognized me and hesitantly addressed me as Lady Meng. Her words drew the attention of several other noble women nearby. The circumstances of my divorce from Meng Jinyan back then were likely not very honorable, so the Meng family had kept it quiet. They only said Hunger was ill, and I had taken him to seek medical treatment elsewhere. Before I could respond, the lady stepped forward quickly, took my hand, and smiled. It truly is Lady Meng. Everyone, come see, this is the mother of the young imperial engineer. Only then did the others realize, the lady who had left the Meng household a decade ago had returned to the capital, and her son had become the young imperial engineer personally appointed by His Majesty. Several ladies gathered around naturally, one praising Hunger's brilliance, another commending my parenting skills. The lady who had spoken earlier personally poured tea for me, inquiring in detail how I had raised such an exceptional child. Surrounded by them, I found myself busy responding to their attentions. Amidst the flattery and discussion, only Mei Qingwan and her son stood with faces ashen, struggling to suppress the jealousy in their eyes. Equally frozen was Meng Jinyan. His gaze was complex, his face deathly pale. Just as he was about to speak, a sharp, high-pitched announcement rang out. Imperial edict has arrived. In an instant, the entire garden fell silent. Everyone scrambled from their seats and knelt on the ground. The eunuch delivering the edict first offered birthday wishes to Master Lu, then walked directly to Hunger and read aloud the imperial decree held in his hand. Thou, Shinheng, art endowed with extraordinary talent by heaven, possessing ingenuity and craftsmanship. Thy achievements in shipbuilding shall benefit future generations for 1,000 autumns. You are hereby appointed Deputy Director of the Bureau of Construction, entrusted with overseeing the construction of warships. Additionally, you are granted the title of Attendant Scholar of the Hanlin Academy, with permission to enter the palace at any time to present memorials. Madame Xinzhen, through her compassionate guidance, has raised her son to become a man of talent. In accordance with the established system, you are hereby specially conferred the title of fifth-rank noble lady. You are permitted to wear the ceremonial robes and headdress befitting this rank, to honor your virtue. I froze, bewildered, when had Hunger petitioned for this imperial decree. Hunger steadily took the edict, then turned to help me rise. Throughout this entire scene, he never once glanced at Meng Xinyan kneeling beside us. Only as we were about to depart did the eunuch seem to notice Meng Xinyan, exclaiming in surprise, "Forgive my poor eyesight, Minister Meng. I hadn't realized you were present. Your son is so accomplished at such a young age, honored by the emperor's grace. Surely you share in his glory?" Then, as if suddenly remembering something, he covered his mouth with his sleeve and chuckled, "What a forgetful old servant I am. I'd forgotten you divorced Lady Shen 10 years ago. The child follows his mother. In that case, today's ceremony honoring Supervisor Shen's promotion and rewards brings glory to Lady Shen's household. It has little to do with you now." These words utterly shattered the dignity Meng Xinyan had struggled to maintain. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Meng Xinyan snatched his gaze away from Hunger as if scalded. His body swayed, nearly toppling him. I was surrounded by ladies offering congratulations. By the time I recalled this person, they had vanished from their original spot. When Meng Xinyan returned home in a daze, his mother called out to him. "I heard from Qingwan that Xinzhen, that woman, brought Hunger back? An orphaned child and a widow must be struggling. That's why she humbled herself to return. That child, Hunger, you must take him back." Though his prospects and studies are dim, not a fraction of Linner's, he remains the legitimate grandson of the Meng family. He cannot be left to wander. As for Xinzhen, she had the backbone to leave back then. If she wishes to return now, she must break that pride, demote herself from wife to concubine, only then may she enter the Meng household. Only now did he realize with a jolt how deeply his mother despised Xinzhen. And because she despised Xinzhen, she despised Hunger as well. He slumped down, exhausted, and gave a bitter, self-mocking laugh. Might as well give up entirely. Hunger is now a young imperial engineer personally appointed by His Majesty, while Asian holds the rank of 5th-grade noble lady. Both mother and son were extraordinary honors. What more could you possibly demand, mother? Why not kneel at the Shin residence gate right now? Perhaps Asian, moved by your sincere repentance, might allow Hunger to reclaim his ancestral lineage. During that first year of exile, if not for Xinzhen's constant support, Mother would likely have succumbed to illness long ago. All these years, Mother has relentlessly tried to match him with Mei Qingwan, even going so far as to lace his food with drugs, yet he never yielded. In the end, Mother had no choice but to adopt her as her foster daughter, and she has repeatedly complained to him about it ever since. She hopes he will remarry and have children, so that she can finally let go of Xinzhen and her son. Meng Xinyan slowly closed his eyes, a clear and beautiful figure flashing through his mind. He had to admit that all these years, the person who truly occupied his heart was still Xinzhen. After the smile faded, a deep sense of desolation settled in his heart. In the end, he and his mother were cut from the same cloth. Blind in both eyes and heart, mistaking pearls for fish eyes. Ingrate, trampling genuine affection into the mud. Now he must swallow the bitter fruit himself. Meng Xinyan had sought out me and Hunger several times. The gatekeeper, following Hunger's instructions, always turned him away. Until that mid-autumn night, when Hunger and I returned from strolling through the market. Meng Xinyan waited outside the estate, a food box in hand. Far off, the street market sparkled with lanterns, faint laughter drifting from the revelry. Yet the corner before him alone lay cold and frosty. His gaze fell gently upon Hunger and me, tinged with expectation. "Hunger, these are your favorite jujube paste mooncakes. Your father waited an hour." Before he could finish, Hunger dodged his outstretched hand and refused outright. "Minister Meng has mistaken. It is Jing Lin who loves jujube paste mooncakes, not me." Meng Xinyan was struck as if by lightning, the food box clattering to the floor. Hunger now towered over Meng Xinyan, who could only look up at him. "Everything that happened in the past was my fault. I caused you and your mother so much suffering. But we are still family. I don't ask for your forgiveness, only for a chance to make amends." Hunger tugged at my sleeve, his steps unstoppable. "Mother, let's go." Tonight's moonlight was too cold, too bright, leaving no place to hide. Like Hunger's grievances and resentment. Meng Xinyan's regret and shame. Suddenly, I recalled that mid-autumn night 10 years ago. As if confirming an old saying. Today's fruit is yesterday's cause. Some things are best said face to face. Hunger, go back first. Your mother needs to speak with Lord Meng. Hunger gave me a deep look, nodded, and left. Only then did I turn to face Meng Xinyan. Actually, Hunger's favorite mooncake was the red bean paste kind. A flicker of light suddenly ignited in Meng Xinyan's eyes. But that was when he was 6. He no longer liked them now. That glimmer instantly dimmed. I looked intently into his eyes and asked, Meng Xinyan, if 10 years ago, I hadn't taken Hunger away, do you think he would have achieved what he has today? The atmosphere froze. Meng Xinyan's breath caught, speechless. Probably not, I continued without waiting for his reply. At that chrysanthemum banquet, Hunger was publicly tested on his studies. He couldn't match Xinglin's performance, bringing shame upon you. You flew into a rage, unaware that Mei Qingwan had secretly tutored Xinglin beforehand, ensuring he knew that poem by heart. He had barely read it twice. Yet you blamed his lack of diligence, punishing him by delaying his dismissal by half an hour. On my birthday, he secretly carved a wooden hairpin for me. Mei Qingwan accused him of wasting his time on trifles, confiscating all his carving tools. You even ordered him to kneel in the ancestral hall for an hour. That inkstone? Xinglin deliberately framed him. Hunger saw it with his own eyes. But when he tried to defend himself, did you ever give him a chance to speak? And that mid-autumn festival? Mei Qingwan deliberately abandoned Hunger in the bustling market. Wild dogs chased him to the end of an alley, leaving him terrified and disoriented. Do you know that even now, at 16, Hunger still wakes from nightmares filled with visions of your cold, indifferent gaze? My words cut sharply. Meng Xinyan's face paled by the second. I've warned him time and again about Mei Qingwan and her son's malicious intentions. Yet each time, he dismissed it as my own narrow-mindedness and intolerance. These past 10 years, having walked many paths and experienced much, I've gradually come to understand. The root of all this lies with Meng Xinyan. Had he truly respected and cherished me as his wife, how could he have allowed his mother to mistreat me, Mei Qingwan to belittle me, and even Hunger to be neglected? If he truly cherished me and Hunger, how could he have sided with Mei Qingwan and her son? These are all real events that occurred. If one were truly inclined to investigate, every single detail would be easy to uncover. Back then, I relied solely on a mother's intuition. I knew that if I didn't take Hunger and leave, the high walls of the Meng household would eventually suffocate us both. At last, I summarized his own words for him, had Hunger and I not left, you would have grown to despise us eventually. Were it not for Hunger's current fortune, you wouldn't be consumed by such regret now. Meng Xinyan seemed to anticipate my next words and cut me off urgently, no. These past 10 years, you and Hunger have never left my thoughts. I was foolish and despicable before, but I won't be again. Asian, will you and Hunger forgive me? I shook my head. No. Now Hunger has his mentor, his dear friends, and me, many who love him. He doesn't need you. Cold sweat beaded on Meng Xinyan's forehead as he staggered back half a step. My gaze lingered on his face, lost in thought for a moment. Truthfully, Hunger bears a striking resemblance to him. Especially when he furrows his brow, the expression is identical. For a moment, it felt like bitter irony. Now Hunger has grown into the very image Meng Xinyan once longed for, yet none of it has anything to do with him anymore. When it comes to raising children, there's no faking it. The child's heart knows exactly who has been sincere with him. The depth of your devotion is matched by the closeness he returns. There is no fairer reckoning in this world. The next news I heard about Meng Xinyan was his demotion. It began when the Meng family elders accused Hunger of disobedience, of refusing to acknowledge his biological father and defying the bonds of humanity. They intended to pressure him behind closed doors, forcing him to acknowledge his ancestral ties. Yet Hunger turned and entered the palace, presenting his case before the emperor with words that rang true. When Mother divorced Lord Meng years ago, the divorce papers stated plainly in black and white, the child shall follow the mother. Henceforth, honor and disgrace shall concern neither party. Over these 10 years, Lord Meng has bestowed the gift of life upon me, yet failed in the duty of nurturing. With the bond of fatherhood severed, how can filial piety be claimed? I now bear the Shin surname and am the son of the Shin family. The clan elders, terrified out of their wits, immediately confessed that Mei Qingwan had instigated this behind the scenes. The emperor, ever discerning, rebuked them sternly in court, having severed ties through divorce. How dare you cloak personal grievances in the guise of filial duty? Though the great Qi dynasty governs the realm through filial piety, a father's kindness must precede demands for a son's devotion. Meng Xinyan was demoted to Lingzhou for failing to govern his household strictly and for indulging relatives who framed court meritorious officials. Mei Qingwan and her son were expelled from the capital, never to return. Lingzhou lay far beyond towering mountains and distant waters. Once they departed, there would be no day of reunion. At that time, I was accompanying Master Lu Shan, savoring preaching Ming tea. Lu Shanren stroked his beard and sighed. Back then, a lone woman like you dared to divorce and take your child away. I knew then how much injustice you and your son had endured. The tea's fragrance filled the air, stirring memories of long-forgotten days. That first act of solitary courage, leaving with hunger, left me gazing around in bewilderment, my heart filled with uncertainty. Time has changed everything. Looking back now, it doesn't feel bitter at all. On the day Meng Xinyan left the capital, he sent a wooden box through an intermediary. Inside lay neatly stacked banknotes, with many of Hunger's childhood belongings tucked beneath. The old servant delivering the box conveyed Meng Xinyan's message in just 8 words: years will pass, cherish yourself. I accepted it. Later, I heard that Mei Qingwan's mother had fallen ill during their journey away from the capital. Qing Lin, stripped of his scholarly honors, underwent a profound change in character. He sank into decadence, spending his days drinking and gambling. After gambling away all their travel funds, he turned his fists and feet against his own mother. The last time anyone saw them was in Lingnan. Qing Lin snatched the last silver hairpin from Mei Qingwan's hair and left her to fall ill in a dilapidated temple. She had spent her entire life scheming for her son, only to meet such an end. But that is all after the fact. When Hunter turned 20, His Majesty established a new naval force. I accompanied Hunter to his post at Zhengzhou port. 1,000 sails filled the harbor, all under his command. Endless azure waves, new warships cleaving the sea. The world stretches wide, let us wander freely. The end.